Hi there and welcome to the England Golf Podcast. We've made it to episode 16. My name's Ian McFarlane and once again it's that time of year when we all have Georgia on our minds. Coming up on the podcast we talk to Caley McGinty, nominated not once but twice in the 2022 England Golf Awards, and she's also off to that little piece of golfing heaven to play in the Augusta National Women's Amateur, swapping games on the Xbox for the real thing. Now, of course, that field of dreams at Augusta relies on an army of greenkeepers to keep it in shape, and later in the podcast we'll speak to Sami Strutt from BIGGA, that's the British and International Golf Greenkeepers Association, about why we should all show just a little bit of love and understanding to the men and women who tend our courses. On top of that, we'll have a news roundup from another busy month, but first, let's start on that Augusta theme with R&A Amateur champion Laird Shepherd as he prepares for his Masters debut. Now, while working in a Tesco call centre, Laird had plenty to ponder between helping customers with their shopping queries. He couldn't get to the root of a troublesome back injury that had plagued him for 4 years, and he wondered if he might have to quit. But after remodelling his swing to ease the pressure on his back, Laird found a winning formula. At last year's Amateur, the 24-year-old battled to the final against Monty Scousel, only to suffer a bit of a nightmare in the morning, find himself 7 down at lunch in the 36-hole final. He was still 4 down with 4 to play, and yet won them all before getting over the line at the second extra hole. Now all roads lead to Magnolia Lane, and it's a week that the golfer from Rye in Sussex is eagerly anticipating after so many detours and dead ends on the journey to Georgia. I caught up with Laird recently to find out all about his preparations for the Masters. Laird, thanks for joining us in the podcast and for breaking into your practice routine in the Algarve, the sunny Algarve. There's some trifling event coming up soon called the Masters. I think some people might have heard of that. I'll be watching it on the telly, but you'll be playing in it. How's the butterflies?
Okay at the moment. I'm sure by Thursday they'll be pretty large. But yeah, it's going to be obviously a really cool experience, and there's so many like little things I suppose that go into the whole trip as a whole, let alone just the week at Augusta. And yeah, it's going to be really, really fun, and looking forward to just sort of in a sense just being there and getting to focus just on hitting the shots. So
it's been a long time coming, hasn't it? I bet you've been thinking about it every minute of every day since June last year.
Yeah, it's been strange because the Open only had 2.5, 3 weeks to really think about it, whereas you've pretty much got 8-9 months to dwell on it, and especially just the time of year it is. It's sort of what you're looking to during those months of winter training. So yeah, you got to try and do your best not to build it up too much, because it is just another week of golf, and you can't sort of my life doesn't end after the 11th of April. So yeah, that's how I'm trying to look at it.
Let's just rewind a little bit, Laird, back to last summer and what clinched your place at Augusta. That's the 126th Amateur Championship up at Nairn Golf Club. Where to start, really? A fantastic week that you had in the build-up to get into the final, but of course the final is the thing that everybody remembers. The comeback to top all comebacks, the miracle. I don't know how you describe it in your own mind or when talking to people, but eight down after 17 holes of the morning round. You win the 18th to go into lunch, just the 7 down. What are you thinking at that point? Is it still plausible for you to win? Is it recovering pride? What are you thinking about in the locker room?
Definitely thinking about the drive home that night, because it would have been about a 3.5, 4 hour drive. So honestly, I was thinking about, well, when are we going to leave and when am I going to get home, sort of thing. The people around me were not thinking like that. Fortunately, they were telling me that it was all still to play for. I don't know how much they maybe believed that, but and especially not then getting off to a really hot start in that afternoon 18. It didn't feel like it was, it was going to be too little, too late in a sense. But match play is so funny, and the fact that you win a few holes and then your outlook's completely changed, and I guess that's kind of what happened. And then just a bit of a blur from sort of 13 onwards, I suppose. It's just sort of like you go into almost survival mode in that situation. You've invested so much time that week to obviously getting into that position, and obviously with all of the prizes and perks of winning, as opposed to not winning, you do feel like your life's on the line in a sense, and you just, I went into just real sort of survival mode, and then after it finished, was actually feeling pretty unwell, I think, from being in that zone for so long. But it was a wild day. Obviously, I'll never forget it. So
yeah, and anyone who witnessed it either in person or on TV won't either. Monty Scousel, who you were playing in that final, seemed to be in control, and even he was Dormy 4, so he still had a healthy lead. When you're standing in that 15th tee, you've mentioned there, it's survival mode. Are you able to focus clearly, or as you say, is it just a blur? Are you freewheeling? What on earth is going through your head?
I suppose, yeah. I found it probably easier to focus than Monty would have done, given the two different positions that we were in. And I just kept saying to my caddy that I needed to keep using the fact that I am this far down to my advantage and just keep being aggressive and applying as much pressure as possible, because I think we all know how difficult it must be to be on the other side of it and have that big lead, and you just need to close it out, and you're counting down holes in your head and stuff, and we've all been there, and so that really helped me in a sense just be a bit more free and just try and put as much pressure on as possible, because how difficult it is to try and close something like that out. So given the rewards and stuff that I don't think anyone would be telling the truth if they were 7 up at lunch and they weren't thinking about playing the Open, playing the Masters and the US Open and everything else. So it was definitely sort of fortunate for me that I was able to use that to my advantage.
Yeah. And conversely, you're thinking you've blown it. You're thinking that these invites, the holy grail of any golfer to play at these events, is disappearing. So credit to you for keeping it together and winning on the 20th hole when you did. The emotion at the end of it, though, Laird, just watching it on TV as I did, you seemed as if you didn't quite know how to react, whether it was joy at getting over the line, just the raw emotion of it all. When you look back at it now, and I presume you've watched a recording of it, what do you think watching yourself in that moment?
I think it's clear that I was so, as I say, in that sort of survival mode, and I was just living every shot, and I was exceptionally nervous, obviously, because it got to the position where it was now no longer I sort of had something to lose again, in terms of we were back to all square, but just watching that, how it finished, I suppose I almost was mentally so prepared to go to the next tee box that when it finished, I was kind of like, is that really it? And obviously as well, with the emotion on my side being obviously really, really happy, and but knowing at the same time that it'd be tough to take for Monty, and he dealt with it unbelievably, which made it a lot easier for me. But it didn't feel right to be joyful almost, because it's how tough it would be to take on the other side, and and I guess for me personally, it was just the realization that I'd overcome quite a lot of injury issues and just sort of doubting whether I was going to be able to keep playing golf, and then to find myself winning the biggest amateur event in arguably the world, definitely in Europe. It's a bit of a whirlwind sort of transition from literally speaking to my dad about going back to university and doing another degree 10 days before winning the British Amateur. So it was a quick turnaround, but life comes at you quickly sometimes. So
it is bonkers, because people who don't know the backstory, I mean, 6 months before you're holding that amateur trophy in the air at Nairn, you were seriously contemplating having to kind of give up your dream of becoming a professional golfer and to making your way in the game, because your back was so troublesome that you could, I mean, it's not an exaggeration to say you couldn't swing a club.
Yeah, I mean, I look back at now the last sort of, well, I suppose from that January in 2021, right back until March 2017, and there would have been 8 or 9 times during that 3-4 year period where I would have multiple months without touching a club, just because just struggling physically and couldn't work out what to do. And I mean, you go from, with amateur golf especially, you go from playing in events with a certain group of people. I started playing the bigger amateur events in 2017, and quickly the group that you grew up playing with and you started playing with are all turned pro, and there's new faces, and you feel like you're not going anywhere. And I think that's probably something a lot of people experience. But so I think like a combination of stuff like that just was difficult to deal with, especially when you don't feel like you're moving towards something that essentially your life is about achieving, almost in a sad way. But so obviously to go from that then to sort of winning the biggest event, it wasn't a gradual progression in that sense, but I'll take it.
Yeah, quite right too. And not many people who've worked in a Tesco call centre get to play in the Masters. But you're going to do that. You're going to do that.
Yeah. I won't be talking about people's missing eggs and milk. So
it is, when you look at it, as people often say, fairy tale stories, but it does appear that way, even though you've worked very hard to get to this point over a number of years. Just looking at Augusta now, Laird, it's not that far in the future. It's within touching distance. What's your thoughts as you approach it? You're just happy to be there and take part? Do you have specific goals for the week? How do you approach the event?
It's a good question, and it's a difficult one, I think, because everyone that probably wins the British Amateur is by virtue going to be relatively competitive, and I'm pretty competitive, and it doesn't really matter what field I'm in. I'm going to want to play the best I can, and I suppose that's golf in a sense. It's all about you versus you, and you versus the golf course. So that's what I have to judge myself on, rather than any particular position. But no one wants to play just 2 rounds. So but you have to, at the same time, you've got to make sure that whilst you're there to play the best you can, you have to soak it in, and enjoy it, because who knows if it's ever going to happen again. It's a lot of people have a very, very successful professional careers and never play the Masters. So so obviously I'll be doing my best to keep my head up and eyes up, and not just focusing on each shot and trying to take some of it in at the same time.
This is where you make me feel very old, Laird, because when I think of the Masters, I think about the greats like Seve and Faldo winning it, and this is way before your time. So when I ask you to recall your Masters memory, what is the one thing that sticks out as a kid growing up and watching it on the TV like we all did?
My first memory of a particular year and a particular winner was Zach Johnson in 2007. So I would have been about 10 years old. But that's probably my first memory. I mean, I was fortunate enough to go over to Augusta and get some practice in at the end of January, and it's no exaggeration to say every single hole I remember a shot watching on TV. There's so many iconic moments, obviously, especially you get to Amen Corner. As you remember, I personally remember watching a lot of goal shots into that hole on TV. I remember Garcia winning. Obviously, that was quite recent. Danny Willett winning. I remember being glued to a few of those. But further back, probably Zach Johnson was my first memory. It's a bit of a random one, but
yep, it certainly is. But he won it. He's got that green jacket, and you can't take that away from him. So, having now been at Augusta and played the course, how many times in your head have you rehearsed the tee shot at 12, the approach at 13, the tee shot at 16?
Yeah, many times. Yeah, it's it's just they're great design holes. And I suppose until you actually go there and see them, I personally didn't really understand how well designed they are. You got 12. You think it's just a short shot, but just the way the green's angled and how it's placed, it just for a right-handed player, it's a relatively difficult shot, and obviously we've seen a lot of disasters on that hole. So, but at the same time, it is still a 9-9, and I think that's the beauty of it. It's it asks good questions, and it's just a great golf course. There's no other way of describing it.
Presumably, when you were there in January, it was relatively superstar free, but when you pitch up there in a few weeks, there's going to be everybody who's anybody in the world of golf there. I spoke to Josh Hill last month about when he was playing in the Abu Dhabi Championship, and for the first time he found it quite difficult being in the range with superstars and just trying to focus on what he was doing. And he maybe suffered from that when he first played 2 years ago. It was a little bit better this time around because he knew what to expect. Have you got to try and prepare yourself mentally for that, not to be on the range and kind of looking left and right to see, the superstars of the game and trying to focus on your own thing? Try not to be kind of starstruck and in awe of the whole event?
Yeah, definitely that's something that I think if you're going to be successful, you can't be... you can't go in with your sort of tourist hat on and, be looking around and paying too much attention. Fortunately, having played the Open, I've sort of experienced that a little bit. And, I found it relatively easy to concentrate on what I'm doing because, there's a couple thousand people watching everyone hit balls. And whilst I'm guessing not many people were necessarily watching me hit balls, there's still eyes on you. And I don't know why that seems to just focus me a little bit. But yeah, obviously there's going to be, as you said, the best players in the world. I think that's the coolest thing, having played at these various different levels, you're always thinking, I wonder what the best players in the world would shoot around this course, or how would they go about playing this hole, and etc. And I won't have to wonder in April. The best will be there, and that's pretty cool. Yeah, to think you're in a golf tournament with pretty much 80 of the best players in the world. So
Have you booked your accommodation in the Crow's Nest yet? The amateur champion gets at least one night there. Have you secured your digs for the week?
I haven't secured that yet, but it's definitely something I'm looking to do. As you say, just for a night, just to take it off the bucket list. Really, I'm sure there's a bunch of interesting stuff up there. So I'll be keen to get my night's stay.
Joe Long obviously preceded you as the amateur champion, another Englishman who's making his way now in the professional game. But have you had a chance to speak to Joe? Do you know him at all, just to try and get his perspective on what he went through last year and see if there's anything that you can learn from that? Because I spoke to him around about this time last year and he was fairly relaxed about it, but I'm sure there were things about the championship itself that there was something that he couldn't expect and couldn't prepare for. So is there anything you can use to your advantage from that?
Yeah, I obviously knew of Joe. We hadn't maybe played together that much, but obviously saw him at the Open last year and said to him there, I'll be asking you a few questions in due course. So I've messaged him a couple of times, I think, just about bits and pieces, but I'll probably be asking him a bit more now. I've actually seen the place and can maybe understand a bit more of what he means when he replies and tells me, how he went about the week. And obviously there's a lot that goes on in addition to just the golf and just generally organising yourself. And it's been useful to have someone like Joe to reach out to and try and get the sort of cheat sheet on what's going on.
Is there anyone else that's able to help you, Laird? I seem to remember Joe was quite friendly with Chris Wood from his area down in Gloucestershire, who had played the Masters previously and was able to help him. Have you been able to call in anyone else to give you a steer on how to approach it?
Hopefully, I played with Webb Simpson at the Open for a practice round, and he said he'd take me under his wing for a few holes when the time came in April, and definitely be something I'll be taking him up on. He's having gone back and looked at how he's done at the Masters. He's certainly had some consistent performances the last sort of 5-6 years, and he was basically saying it's taken him about 7 years to work out how to really play the place, and I can definitely understand that now, having been there. You kind of think when someone says that initially, you think, well, surely there can't be that much to it, but certainly is. In terms of just pin position, is just completely dictate how you play each hole, and those 3 days practicing there was the grey matter was working in overdrive, so be definitely useful to pick a guy like Webb's brain, and he was absolutely golden, great guy to play with. So we'll be looking forward to that. Yeah.
Is there a danger you can overthink it? Can you overcomplicate it and just get too consumed by, oh my God, I'm playing in the Masters and this hole's difficult and this shot's difficult and this tee shot's tricky? Can you put that almost to one side and just focus on people always talk about the process, don't they? Can you still do that when you're playing a course like Augusta National?
Yeah, I think so. I think in a sense it's like any other golf course. There's just a bit more to it, and I think I was fortunate enough to play in the DP World European Tour event at Valderrama, and that the green speeds and slopes kind of gave me a similar experience as I expect will be like in April Augusta. So having that to learn from was useful, and as you say, you can't really go spend 5 days before the event there looking at every place that you don't want to hit the golf ball. You've got to, in a sense, keep it simple of I'm going to hit it there and I'm going to hit it here and I'm going to try and hit it in the hole. So you've got to sort of understand it all then to be able to just keep it as simple as possible. but there's a lot of I'd say into the greens is the most important thing. You've got to control where you're hitting it and the spin you're putting on it. Otherwise, it'll end up gravity takes its course and it'll end up somewhere you don't want it to be. So, but yeah, you need to keep it as simple as possible. But just understand basically your game plan for each sort of pin position in each hole.
As well as people like me pestering you for interviews and the build-up to it, Laird, I suspect you've had many offers from people wanting to caddy for you that week, people who wouldn't bother putting themselves forward any other week of the year. Have you been snowed under with a whole lot of new friends in the last 9 months and people either wanting to be a caddy or asking if you can supply them with tickets?
Yeah, there's maybe been a few of that. Fortunately, my bag was taken as well. It was taken before the final. My friend Andrew's caddying for me at the British. He said the day before the final, if you win, I'm caddying at Augusta, and I said, yeah, that's fine. So fortunately, that's worked out. He unfortunately couldn't make the Open because he's getting married the day after. So
surely he could have postponed it. Come on.
Yeah, I don't think he would have been a very popular man if that had been the case. But it'll be great to have Andy on the bag. I mean, he's a very down to earth guy, so he'll keep me on the straight and narrow. So,
is there one particular thing you're looking forward to in the week? We've talked a lot about it, but is there something special either during the event itself or maybe as a sideshow that you've got in your head that you want to drink in and enjoy?
It's hard to put your finger on just one thing, I suppose. The par 3 tournament, that'll be very cool. And I think I'll get my girlfriend on the bag, so she'll be in the white jumpsuit. So that'll be fun. But just generally there's quite a few people coming over to watch, and family and friends, and the way the world's going at the moment, you don't get that many opportunities to get everyone together and just enjoy a week, and so that'll be some of the best parts about it. I've said this to a few people, sort of the best part about winning the British Amateur is being able to then give the opportunity to people to join you, going to the Masters and the Open and experiencing it with you, and knowing that without me winning that, I wouldn't have been able to give people that opportunity, and so that's been really, really fun to to basically share the experience with everyone. Yeah.
Sounds good. Laird, many congratulations on the amateur win last year and everything that goes with it. And have a great time at Augusta. We're all extremely jealous of the fact you're going to be there and teeing it up that Thursday. But listen, have a ball, make the most of it and play well.
Will do. Thanks very much. Thanks very much for having me on.
Caley McGinty enjoyed a phenomenal year in 2021, winning 5 times on the US college circuit and featuring in team events for England and GB&I. The Gloucestershire golfer was a winning member of the England squad at the European Ladies Team Championship at Royal County Down and followed that up by helping England win the home internationals at Woodhall Spa. Caley also earned a spot on the Curtis Cup team, which lost narrowly to the USA at Conway Golf Club in August, and as a result of this form, she's earned not 1 but 2 nominations in the Performance of the Year category at the 2022 England Golf Awards, due to take place on the 20th of April. And I'm delighted to say that Caley joins us now to talk through her achievements to date. Caley, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Now, you've been put forward for individual achievements and as part of the European Championship winning England team. So, simple question, how does it feel to be hogging 50% of the nominations in the Performance of the Year category?
Yeah, I was so excited when I got the email. I only got an email about being nominated for the individual one. I didn't know until I saw the press release about the team one too. So when I saw that, I was even more excited. So yeah, it feels really good.
Now, taking them one by one, your individual record is something to be proud of. 2021 was a phenomenal year, as I mentioned. Could it have gone any better for you?
It was definitely a really good year. I achieved a lot of goals, which I was working for a while, and was kind of a bit of a whirlwind, especially after the year before with COVID and not competing. But it's it's nice to look back and reflect a little bit.
That college circuit in America is extremely tough to win on, so to win as many times as you did is incredible. Just give us an idea of how tough it is to win in America, because really you're playing against not just the best in American college, but it's people like you who have travelled there to get their education and further their golf careers. So you're playing against the real cream of the crop, aren't you?
Yeah, the fields out there are so strong. I mean, most top amateurs are going out there to play college golf right now, so it's a good indicator of kind of where you're at in the amateur game to go out and play college golf. My freshman year, I always wanted to win a tournament. That was my biggest goal, but I kept finishing fourth and third, and unexpectedly too. Sometimes the hardest thing is even making the travel team in college, because you're around good players day in, day out. But yeah, I ended up getting my first win, and then just kind of got a bit of momentum from there for the rest of the year.
How difficult is the travelling? Because obviously America's a huge landmass. Do you quite enjoy that, travelling about the place, seeing new places, new golf courses, testing yourself in different conditions?
It's one of my favorite parts about it for sure. I've never mind, flying around or long drives or anything, but just being able to see different parts of the world and different parts of the United States, because, I wasn't familiar with it before I went out there. Just, it's been a really, really good experience.
Now, your individual form obviously earned you a spot in the Curtis Cup squad last year. Not the result that we all wanted for GB&I, but how did you enjoy that whole experience?
It was probably one of my favorite weeks in amateur golf. Like you said, it wasn't the result that we wanted, but I just built up in my mind for so long. It's a team that I wanted to make since I was a child. So just to be there, and we had great team chemistry. All the girls were great. The captain was great too. Everyone coming out to Conway again after COVID, after spectators not being allowed to have so many people there supporting us. It was just an amazing feeling.
Now, I spoke to Captain Elaine Ratcliffe before the Curtis Cup last year, and she described you to me as a baby-faced assassin. Now, I don't know if you like that description, if it's an appropriate description.
It's funny, it's not the first time I've kind of heard that phrase, so I don't really know what to think about it, but...
But it is a compliment nonetheless, isn't it?
For sure.
Is that just to do with your sort of competitive spirit? You look all sweetness and light on the outside, but there's a fierce competitor in there.
Yeah, I think when it comes to match play, it definitely fires me up a little bit, but I don't think it shows from the outside, so that's probably where it comes from.
Now, you're back in the running for the 2022 Curtis Cup squad. That was the initial squad was named just a few weeks ago. The chance to play at Merion, the scene of Justin Rose's 2012 US Open win. You excited at that prospect?
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I think the squad's going to be picked or announced in about a month or maybe more. But just the thought of being named in the squad again, or maybe having the opportunity to play in the Curtis Cup again at a venue like Merion would be amazing.
Now, you do quite well in team events. The home internationals last year, you had a clean sweep. You won every game you played in. And the team that won the European Team Championship at Royal County Down was also very impressive. Spoken to you about this before, just that whole team spirit and camaraderie, because you really needed it, didn't you? Because the Sweden team that you played in the final were firm favourites, but against all odds, you pulled it off.
Yeah, for sure. We knew going into the week. I mean, I had not personally played in a European Team Championship before, but so I only kind of knew what teams were strong based on players who had played before and the coaches and everything. But I knew that Sweden were going to be really strong. Scotland were also really strong that week. I think we were down in the foursomes, but definitely our team camaraderie was definitely what carried us through that week for sure.
Excellent. Now back to 2022 and exciting times in the next couple of weeks because you're off to Augusta National. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I actually fly out tomorrow for a couple of weeks to practice before Augusta and go there on the 27th. But yeah, definitely kind of like a dream come true in a way. I remember watching the inaugural one a couple of years ago from home and thinking that's what I want to do one day. But just to be a part of the event is going to be so special.
I take it you've never been there before?
No, I've been to the entrance. In college, we were playing a tournament in Augusta and took a picture by the sign, but I've not been there yet, but excited to go.
Yeah, security kept you out the last time.
Yeah.
Now, Annabelle Fuller, an England teammate of yours, is also competing, but she's an old hand at this. She played in it last year, so have you talked to her about it, what to expect?
I talked to her a little bit over the past couple of months and weeks. One thing I've heard from most people who've played there before is that it's a lot hillier and slopier than what it looks like on TV, so that's good information to have. But I'm looking forward to seeing her. It's been a while as well.
And lots of photographs to be taken, no doubt.
Yeah, I don't think we can have our phones there, but I hope somebody's going to be there taking pictures because I'm going to be printing those out for sure.
Of course, that's a rule at Augusta National, isn't it? You're not allowed to take your mobile phones in, so please don't do that and get kicked out the tournament before it starts, Caley. That would be terrible. What does Augusta mean to you? I mean, when you think of that golf course, what immediately springs to mind?
Well, just ever since I started playing, I started playing golf with my brother when I was 7 or 8, and always had the Masters on every year from that point on, and just watching Augusta and all the the games on Xbox or Wii Sports, playing Augusta on those kind of games. So to be able to play there in an event like the Women's Amateur is it's going to be very surreal, and I just hope that I can soak up every moment.
Everybody does that, don't they? The minute they go on an Xbox or PlayStation, it's the first course is always Augusta. It's never anywhere else. But I guess you don't have any fears playing against the people you'll be competing against, because you do it basically week in, week out on that US college circuit.
Yeah, it's not even fear. It's just it's just a joy to be around players of that caliber all the time. There's always an opportunity to learn from them, and I get along with all the girls, so it's always just a nice time being around good competition and a friendly environment. So it's going to be a good week.
Okay, so just looking ahead to the rest of 2022, what's on the wish list? What are you hoping to achieve this year?
I would say, the goal is to make the final Curtis Cup team, and also hopefully retain home internationals with the England team, and have another good go at European team championships again, all of that stuff. And I'm playing US Amateur this year in August for the first time, which I'm also really excited for. So that's kind of what's next for me.
Excellent. Plenty on the horizon. Well, good luck with that. Good luck at Augusta with all you do with the England squad in 2022, and also for the England Golf Awards that are hosted this year online by broadcaster Naga Manchetti and with presenter and singer Fleur East in a role as a roving reporter. It promises to be a fun night. I'm sure you'll be online from somewhere in America when that takes place, Caley. Yeah. Make a note in the diary, Wednesday the 20th of April from 6:30 p.m. live on the England Golf YouTube channel. Caley, good luck for that and everything that you hope to achieve in 2022.
Thank you very much.
Okay, great to hear there from Caley ahead of Augusta. Now let's have a quick look at what's been making the news in and around England golf in recent weeks. John Goff followed in the footsteps of players such as Sergio Garcia, Jose Maria Olazabal and Danny Willett to win the Spanish amateur title in Jerez. The England men's squad player polished off Norway's Michael Maseth, 6-5 in the final, to become the 15th English winner of the prestigious title and add the Spanish crown to the English one he won last summer at Moortown. John will now hope to take this form with him when he returns to Spain with the four-man England squad, taking part in the Nations Cup at Sotogrande from the 30th of March to the 2nd of April. Joining the 23-year-old in the team are Yorkshire's Sam Bairstow, Zach Chigwidden from Essex, and John's county colleague from BB&O, Ollie Huggins. The last time England competed in the event was in 2019, when Tom Sloman won the individual honour and Team England also struck gold. Staying with squad news, and the England women's squad for 2022 has been confirmed, with all 6 players currently combining studies in America with their golf education. Rosie Belsham, Charlotte Heath, Annabelle Fuller, Caley McGinty, Mimi Rhodes and Amelia Williamson have earned the nod for the 2022 season. England will look to defend their European and home international titles, as well as competing in the World Championships in France in August. Rosie, Annabelle, Charlotte, Caley and Amelia have also been named in Elaine Ratcliffe's initial GB&I squad for the Curtis Cup that takes place at Merion Golf Club in June. Also on the list of 12 players are England girls squad member Lottie Wood, a recent winner of the Sunningdale foursomes with Rachel Gourley, and the 2020 English Women's Amateur champion Emily Price. The final squad of 8 players to take on the USA will be named in April. And finally, England Golf has received backing from Sport England's new funding model and will work in partnership with the organisation to tackle inequalities in the game. England Golf will receive an investment of £7,967,000 of government and national lottery funding from Sport England over the next 5 years. Now, in the world of golf, greenkeepers are perhaps our equivalent of a football referee. We all like to have a moan about them from time to time, but we also recognise that without their dedication to the cause, we simply don't have a game. Up and down the country, the huge efforts by green staff often goes unheralded, but it shouldn't, and is certainly recognised by the good people at the British and International Golf Greenkeepers Association, or BIGGA for short. No one at BIGGA knows more about the industry than Chief Operating Officer Sami Strutt, appointed to her current role in February, but who's been with the organisation for, whisper it, 29 years. Ahead of this month's British Turf Management exhibition in Harrogate, I caught up with Sami to talk about the lot of a modern greenkeeper and the pressure staff face when tending our fairways and greens. Sami, thanks for joining us this morning on the England Golf podcast. For those who don't know already, can you talk a little bit about BIGGA as an organisation and what function it serves in the world of golf?
Yeah, sure, Ian. So BIGGA was created in 1987, and we're the amalgamation of 3 existing greenkeeping associations. We are Europe's largest greenkeeping association, and we're second in the world only to our equivalent association in America. Our reason for being is to support, educate and advise greenkeepers, and to provide a unified voice for the profession of greenkeeping going out to the golfing industry and to the world in general. So in a very quick nutshell, that is what BIGGA do. We have been in existence for over 30 years now. We've got a team of 23, and we run across 5 regions in the UK, and we also have international members across the world. So we're very fortunate. We've got about 5,500 members that we support. Numbers go up and down as they do with any membership. Talking in golf, then obviously golf club memberships, etc. Things at peaks and troughs. But we're at 5,500 currently, which is great.
Now, everybody in the game of golf moans about greenkeepers. I'm a golfer. I always moan that the rough's too thick, that the greens are too fast, that the bunkers are too deep and challenging. But I mean, I guess without greenkeepers, the game of golf doesn't exist, and we've all got to learn to love and appreciate our greenkeepers.
Absolutely. And, that is part of BIGGA's being, and BIGGA's mission is to have them recognised as the true professionals that they are. I think one of the most vastly underrated jobs in the golf industry is the greenkeeper, as you quite rightly say. Without greenkeeping, the game of golf wouldn't exist. You would be, hitting a ball around a field. And it's the greenkeepers that create that beautiful environment that golfers have the privilege to play in every day. It's no easy task growing grass, which is what everybody thinks. Oh, they're just growing and cutting grass. It's far, far more than that. They have to be a scientist, they have to be an ecologist, they have to do people management, they have to do customer service. And, this is just, that can be in 10 minutes that they have to do all four of those, just as an example of the qualities that greenkeepers have to have. Nowadays, not only with climate change, they're also dealing with disease pressures, the lack of chemicals being taken off of the market. So trying to find different ways to manage things that are happening, such as leather jackets, which are absolutely destroying some golf courses. And the cost of that, not just the financial cost, but the mental cost for that, for a lot of the greenkeeping, the pressure is very real.
I was probably in that group, Sami, that said, "Oh, it's just cutting grass. It's a lovely job. You're out in the fresh air every day. You get peace and quiet. You're at one with nature. It's fantastic." But it really came home to me last year when we went to the Brabazon Trophy at Ganton Golf Club in Yorkshire. And Simon Olver and his team there kind of showed us the inner workings of a greenkeeping staff, and it's absolutely phenomenal what they do. And it is, as you said there, a real scientific approach to it now. I was kind of blown away by just how much reliance there is now on technology and computer systems, and soil temperatures and all different manner of things that would seem more at home in a biology lab than a greenkeeper shed. But absolutely, that's the way of the world now, isn't it?
Absolutely, and maintaining machinery. Machinery's very, very expensive. Maintaining irrigation systems, these things, they all cost such a huge amount of money, and it's up to the greenkeepers to make sure that they're maintained and looked after, and that they're working and they're doing the job that they need to do. And when they get old, that's an issue. They need to be renewed, they need to be updated. It's not like your family car, which you can drive into the ground and then just go out and buy a new one. We're seeing this now coming through, and I think everybody is, the effects of COVID and the problems with shipping and not being able to get parts. You order a machine now, it's not going to be here until 2024. They can't. The stock's not there. The pipe is dry. So it's fascinating watching it. We're seeing it in the car market, where secondhand cars have got such a great value now because you can't buy new cars because there aren't the parts to build them. So it's an interesting time in every industry, not just in golf, not just in greenkeeping. But I think that's the kind of thing you got to keep in mind when you walk onto the golf course and you go, well, that doesn't look quite right, or I wasn't expecting it to be like that. That greenkeepers are facing exactly the same challenges as everybody else.
You mentioned something earlier, Sami, which I think golfers have become more aware of in recent times, and that is the dreaded word leather jacket, which seems to have affected golf courses up and down the country. I play at Woodall Spa, and it was badly affected by it last year through no fault of Sam and his greenkeeping team. It's Mother Nature just playing tricks on us. Can you just talk a little bit about that? It seems quite a narrow subject, but it's an important one, in that there's obviously been changes in the rules about what pesticides and things that greenkeepers can use, and that in some ways is a very good thing because you're encouraging a more natural growth in golf courses, but it has a downside, leather jackets breeding prolifically being one of them. Is that become a real issue, a real point of focus for you guys in the last year or 18 months?
It's a massive issue. I cannot say how big an issue it is in the greenkeeping world. We run webinars. We've been running them throughout lockdown, and the biggest number of people that we have had attend a webinar was on leather jackets. We've had over 3,000 people watch this webinar, watch it back. It's the issue is that the chemical that was used to control control leather jackets has been removed, and there's emergency authorization now for a product called Acelepryn, but it's got a really small window whilst it's been allowed to be used. The way that the greenkeepers are trying to handle it, everybody's sharing the information. If somebody comes up with something that works even 5% better than what they've got, it's shared around the industry. And there's the big companies out there, they are researching this. They are trying to find ways to be able to manage this. We're coming up to that time of year again, and the message going out to golf clubs, we've been pushing out messaging to them, making information available to members to share for our members to share with golfers, just to really say, this is not something that we are doing. This is happening because the crane fly are, the leather jackets that become crane fly, that's where they go. They've got the birds that eat them. It's the birds that are pulling up causing all the damage. And it's just such a massive issue, and is causing hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of damage on some golf courses. The pressure on the business to be able to provide playing surfaces through no fault of the activity of the greenkeeping team is really quite frightening. So if there's one message that goes out from this, it's please understand the greenkeepers are doing everything that they possibly can to try and manage this situation.
Be kind to greenkeepers. That's
be
a
kind
message,
to greenkeepers. Yes, be kind to greenkeepers.
How has the industry coped with COVID? Fortunately, we seem to be, there's a bit of light at the end of the tunnel in terms of the pandemic. We're all keeping our fingers crossed for that. But how did that affect the greenkeeping industry in particular? Obviously, golf courses were closed. Green staff were allowed to carry out essential maintenance at various points in lockdowns and things like that. But how has it affected the industry in general, and how has it bounced back?
So we all know the story of COVID. We've all lived it. Greenkeepers, it very quickly became evident that if a golf course closes down, a golf club closes down because of COVID, the golf course can't close down, because that has to be maintained. It has to be looked after. And as you quite rightly said, we had the guidelines in place for essential maintenance. We work very closely with the R&A and other bodies to ensure that we were able to come out as a greenkeeping association as a unified voice to say this is what can be done. We had hundreds and hundreds of calls, emails about what can we do. The greenkeeping teams just stepped up. They've been phenomenal, and a lot of them had team members furloughed as well, and they were split into two teams. They were doing split shifts. They weren't allowed to use the same machines. They weren't allowed into their maintenance facilities at the same time. All the things that we have seen in offices, all of a sudden, they weren't allowed to sit in the same canteen and have their lunch at the same time. They were sitting in their cars or sitting outside. And, so they really, really had to step up and do this massive job. And, they were getting a couple of days' notice that golf course is going to be open again. Suddenly golf was the first sport to open. And the greenkeepers just stepped in and went, yep, we can make that happen.
That probably brings us nicely on, Sami, to kind of educational opportunities in greenkeeping and your Continue to Learn conference, which has been staged at Harrogate this month. Can you just tell us a little bit about that and just how important it is for ongoing education in the world of greenkeeping? I suppose, like any scientific industry, as we've touched on earlier, things change very rapidly, so you've got to keep abreast of the latest trends and developments.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Continue to Learn is part of BTME, which is the BIGGA Turf Management Exhibition, which we've been running for over 30 years now in Harrogate, usually in January, postponed because of dastardly COVID this year to March. Omicron threw a spanner in our works. So we have a 3-day exhibition and a 4-day education extravaganza, I shall call it. It's 4 days. We run a 3-day conference, which we discuss everything from mental health to the latest technology. We have professors coming in from the US to talk about, funnily enough, leather jackets and earthworms. So that's the trends there. So anything that is trending through the industry, we try to ensure that there's education on that. We're also very heavy on people management. So providing greenkeepers with the skills to manage their teams as they move up through their career. That becomes increasingly less about agronomy and more about people management, depending on the size of the club that you are at. And we also run a series of 14 free seminars that are being presented by our exhibitors. So they're talking about research that has been done and products that are coming onto the market. We don't allow them to do sales pitches. It has to be the education behind what it is that they are doing as a business, and how that's benefiting the industry. It's also a brilliant place for networking. Greenkeeping can be quite an isolated job, as I touched on before, and extreme working hours. How many people have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and drive to work and put on a head torch and go out and cut a green? It's I'm sure there'll be lots of other industries shouting now, going, well, we do something like that. But it gives them an opportunity to touch base with each other, share ideas. It's a very, very sharing industry. If a greenkeeper learns something that makes their life easier, they don't keep it to themselves. They share it with everybody, and the social media channels are really, really active. Twitter is massive in greenkeeping. It's really is the main place where all the discussions take place. And it just gives them that opportunity to draw the industry together, to celebrate what it is that we do, and really to showcase all the new products for the industry to just chat.
Sounds like good fun. You've sold it to me, Sami.
It's great fun. You ought to come along here. You'd love it. You'd love it.
I'm there for all 4 days.
Fantastic.
Right, this is your big opportunity. We've talked a bit about greenkeeping. We've talked about the kind of downsides to it and issues that the greenkeepers face. But it's also, let's not kid ourselves, it's a fantastic occupation. You get a great deal of satisfaction out of it. We've talked about being at one with nature and early mornings and being in some of the most beautiful parts of the countryside, and enjoying your job. So here's your platform. Sell me a job in greenkeeping. Why should I'm pretending here that I'm back in my teenage days. I'm maybe leaving school. I'm maybe going to college. I'm maybe even just looking for a career change. Why should I become a greenkeeper?
So greenkeeping now, we're looking at the STEM education. It's scientific, it's technical, it's engineering, it's maths, it's all of those things all put together. You never know what you're going to get every day. It's the variety is incredible. It's a physical job. It's a mentally demanding job. It's outdoors. You're living, as you said, at one with nature. There's a great career path through it. You can start as an apprentice and you can work your way right up. We've got apprenticeships at level 2, 3, 5. We've got foundation degrees. There's master's degrees. We've even got quite a few green greenkeepers that are have now got their doctorates as well. We roll them out quite regularly to help us educate everybody. It's an amazing industry to work in. It's very inclusive. Everybody gets on with everybody else because they're all fighting the same challenges every day. And if you want a job that's outside, that's just got so much variety, if you're interested in the environment, it's a brilliant place to be because there's so much wildlife and ecology on golf courses. We've had people become ecologists. Our own James Hutchinson, who's our resident ecologist, he started off as a greenkeeper. One of our regional team was you can't ever take it away from them. They are greenkeepers at heart. It never goes away. It's just something that you can really get your teeth into, and it can take you all over the world.
You've convinced me, Sami. That's it. I'm handing my resignation and I'm going to become a greenkeeper. That's it.
All right. I'm sure we'll be able to find you an apprenticeship without a problem, Ian.
Actually, I will no longer badmouth greenkeepers. Well,
good.
Until I land in a divot on a fairway or miss a 6-footer because the green's not quite even. But yeah. No, listen, Sami, it's been great chatting to you. I think we've now got a wider appreciation of the work that BIGGA does and what greenkeepers do all around the country to keep our fairways and greens in great condition. And good luck with the conference and good luck for the rest of the season.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having us, Ian.
Well, that's it for episode 16 of the podcast. Hope you've enjoyed it. My thanks to Caley and Laird for their time, and good luck to both when they tee up at Augusta in the next few weeks. The Augusta National Women's Amateur takes place from the 30th of March until the 2nd of April, and the 86th staging of the Masters is on our screens from the 7th to the 10th of April. Good to hear also from BIGGA's Sami Strutt, and you can find out more about the organisation and the greenkeeping profession in general by heading to bigga.org.uk. All the latest from England Golf is found at englandgolf.org, and remember to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook and LinkedIn. Finally, why not join us on our YouTube channel for the England Golf Awards on the 20th of April to celebrate all that's good about the club and amateur scene in this country. Until the next time, keep enjoying your golf. Bye for now.